Tad Williams is a high fantasy writer, and I only stumbled on a few of his books by chance. I had heard of him, but not so much to the extent that it was very clear to me how much of a strong influence he actually has on a few of these other writers that were already very loud in the mainstream. So far, he is best known for his work in the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series, which originally was a four-book part series, or a four-book series, supposed to be a three-part, a proper trilogy, but the third part of the trilogy already has two parts, so more or less you could still say it's a proper trilogy. The first of the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series is the Dragonbone Chair. I have that here. Very nice graphics on cover. And the second is the Stone of Farewell, which I also have here. And then the two-part third book in the trilogy, we have the Green Angel Tower. All right, Green Angel Tower Part 2. Now, one of the attractions of his type of fantasy, and I'm going to break this down. His type of fantasy is that it's closely related or similar to the popular, widely accepted or favorite of the fantasy genre, which is the quest trope, characterized in high fantasy, or by which high fantasy is characterized. And there's no better example of this genre than Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, and this stands to reason because Tad Williams himself, in writing this book, actually pays homage to this genre, and we see examples of this. So the Dragonbone Chair, from its synopsis and its thesis, is really about a quest set on by Simon, and we have Prince Simon and a band of travelers, or I would say characters, who will be set on this journey to stop a great evil from spreading across the kingdom. And the reason this plot sounds familiar is because it's the same trope that is being used by Tolkien in Lord of the Rings. And there are some characters that you can actually draw similarities with in Tolkien's books as well, or his own Lord of the Rings series, starting with, you could say, the great evil, which threatens the peace and order in the kingdom. In Tad Williams' series, Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, we have the Sith, we have the Storm King, and he is the Tad Williams, or this series version of Saruman, or you might say, and then we have an elvish like characters, or character called Siti, who is basically like a messenger or go-between for the great evil, which the League, who have been set on this quest, will be fighting against. And they have, of course, different stop points in this whole story across the different parts of the trilogy. In the first one, we have the dragon bone chair, which it needs to be secured. We have then we have the stone of farewell, which is another stop point, and then finally we have the last stop point in the last parts of the series, which is known as Asua. That's what it's called. It's known as Asua, and that is the greatest stronghold of Sithi. And we might say that there are other dimensions or other elements that Tad Williams so masterfully deploys in telling of this story that makes him a key influencer in this genre, and especially to the extent that we can say that writers like Rufus himself or Brian Sanderson take on or have been influenced. One of them is the development of dark fantasy as a subgenre, and in this sense where there is a strong atmosphere of gloom, of doom, and also you know the popular trope deployed by George Martin himself, where you kill off favorite characters, and so it's not technically right to say you have George Martin who actually started that, but actually we already had writers before him who actually started killing off favorite writers, and by so doing, people or readers are being forewarned when they take on certain books or certain stories, and that don't hold too dearly on to characters, or don't have any favorites, because you never know. In this book we have the League, of which Simon is a part, and as we go from one part of the series to another, of course we're going to have people, members of the League, who will be dropping off, killed off, or or worse, being happening to them. And in that sense, you see how the darkness or the gloom or the despair begins to set in the atmosphere created by Tad Williams himself. The second thing is from the first, even from reading the first the synopsis of the first book in this series, the description of the Shadowborn chair, you can begin to draw some semblance to George Martin's The Iron Chair in Game of Thrones, or series, as it's popularly known. There was a great investment of descriptive device in sharing the importance, the potency of that chair in driving the story of this series. And the final part of it is also in the atmosphere being painted, across all the books in this series, especially one of great sadness being brought on by an impending evil that threatens the peace and the brightness of the kingdom, as driven by Sithi himself. And this akin to we would say maybe Brian Sanderson's Cosmere universe, where everywhere is filled with ash, and it's dark. And by that we see how Tad Williams himself becomes a forerunner of dark fantasy. Last of all, and maybe just by way of news and updates, Tad Williams actually progresses this story. By the time, I think it was 1988, by 1988, close to 1990, I could check, Tad Williams was able to finish off it was by then taken that the two parts of the last book in the series would be the final conclusion to the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series, as the story of Osten Ard, which is the kingdom itself in which the series is set. However, I believe that Williams picked it up again with another series known as The Last Kings of Osten Ard, right about 2017, and up till last year, I believe, yeah, 2022. He started off this new series, and up till last year, he was still he released the fourth book in this new series, Last King of Osten Ard. We have the Navigator's Child, which is set to be released next year, and I think all Tad Williams fans are looking forward to that. That itself is supposed to be the conclusion to the stories from Osten Ard, and I'm pretty curious how this particular series plays out, and just more or less just immersing myself in his kingdom. So there it is, Tad Williams. More or less another set of books I've added to my TBR, and it's safe to say that this is taking me well into next year to complete and have a concrete opinion about his writing and his work. But so far, I'm looking forward to the exercise in itself. So, what to do? If you have any thoughts about Tad Williams and his books, if you've read any of his books, please let me know in the comments. And until I see you in the next one, please subscribe, share, and comment. Happy reading.